Speaker, I'm excited about this. Our speaker, Brandon Ziegler, is a Navy and Army veteran. He's a financial professional and dedicated leader who is passionate about helping others build secure futures through financial planning and servant leadership. In addition to his work as a financial representative, Brandon continues to serve through the Oklahoma National Guard and is actively involved in supporting the veteran community. His diverse career reflects a commitment to leadership, service, and lifelong learning. A proud graduate of Southern Nazarene University, Brandon earned a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. His educational journey, military service, and professional expertise has equipped him with valuable insights into leadership, resilience, and personal growth. Brandon is a member of the Sooner Plains Warrant Officer Association, the National Infantrymen's Association, and the Order of St. Maurice,
yes,
and the National Field Artillery Association. Ladies and gentlemen, live and in person, please help me welcome to the SNU leadership stage, Brandon Ziegler.
Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
A little feedback. Hopefully the feedback goes away. I don't know how to turn the volume down. That's okay. We'll go with it. And then, so I would like to thank Ruben for inviting me to speak here, everybody from the Southern Nazarene University faculty and staff, as well as everybody else that has chosen to be here today. Like, you guys didn't have to be here today, but you chose to give me some of your time, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, as Ruben said, I've had kind of a very diverse career within the United States military and outside of the military as well. So the things that I'm going to talk about today are things that I believe are foundational for entrepreneurs and leaders, regardless of whatever business you're in. Now, when I talk to people, I'm generally speaking to military crowds or briefing type military commanders. I do ask a lot of questions. So I like to have more of a conversational style than just standing up here and speaking to people. If I ask a question and you want to answer it, please just either jump in, raise your hand. I also do warn you that if I ask a question and nobody volunteers an answer, I am going to pick someone, right? Because I do want this to be conversational. Because one of the big things in my business and any business is being able to have like open and honest dialogue with people, right? Regardless of the circumstances, whether you know or don't know each other. So can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
All right. That feedback is a little rough, so we're gonna roll with it like this. So, anyways, I promise Ruben and I did not plan this because he talked a lot today about reflection, right? So, but one of the most important things that you can do as a leader, whether it's in the military or in business or in life, is self-reflection. And I promise you, the hardest person that I have to deal with on a daily basis is that same person that's looking back at me when I'm shaving in the mirror every day. I am my own worst enemy, I promise. I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but I 100% am. So I have to seek to understand myself before I can understand other people. That's really important because in my business, as well as any other leadership role, we're really in the people business. Obviously, things are results driven. We're looking for a desired end state, but the reality is I need people and relationships to do that. So I have to understand myself first before I can understand other people. It goes back to also being, before I can become a good leader, I have to know what it's like to be a good follower. I have to follow and support other people in their goals before I can expect the same thing from other people. That being said, I have to understand what motivates me. So, motivation, there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Does anyone know the difference between the two? Yes?
Extrinsic is coming from the outside, so somebody has the expectation of you to
Sure.
do something. Intrinsic means I'm doing this because this is who I am and I'm going to accomplish it.
Yeah, 100%, thank you. So most extrinsic value that people look at in business is usually revenue, right? Revenue coming in, that's what we look at. The intrinsic side of it is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I getting personal fulfillment out of what I'm doing? So what I have found is the extrinsic part will figure itself out because it's important. All of us running businesses here, we're looking at balance sheets and they need to look the right way in order for us to stay in business. The reality of it is, if I'm driven intrinsically to do what I need to do to build these relationships, the extrinsic component will eventually be there. It will resolve itself. So, what am I afraid of? That's a big thing. Getting into business for yourself, starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur is scary, whether you want to admit it or not. It is scary. So what am I afraid of? Me personally, I always felt like that I had a fear of failure. I would go out and try these really hard things. In my military career, my personal career, I always was successful, not always, especially the first time, but I became successful because I would try and try and try because for the longest time, I thought I was afraid of failing, right? So I would just push myself to the point where I was successful. When I drilled down a little bit deeper, the reality of it is, I'm okay with failing because we fail all the time. I was afraid of not being accepted by my peers, by my superiors. That was the true fear, that I didn't belong, right? That I was an imposter. As a green suiter, U.S. Army personnel, or as a business person, I felt like if I failed, I was not proving that I belonged where I'm at, that I hadn't earned my spot that I'm at right now. So, understanding that has kind of allowed me to reframe the way I think about situations. Because if you're afraid of failing, or if you're afraid of being accepted, it's going to stop you from maybe making that phone call that you need to make to a potential client, to ask for a meeting, right? I've done it multiple times. I was introduced to somebody by a client of mine. They owned a business. It was a very natural introduction, and I was still afraid, and this happened not that long ago. I've been in this business for almost 7 years now. I was still afraid to call them and ask them for a meeting to sit down and talk about their business, because I was afraid that they were going to reject me. I was afraid they weren't going to accept me. I have to understand that I'm not for everybody, right? And that's okay. But I still need to make that phone call. I still need to give them the opportunity to decide for themselves whether they want to work with me or not. So, your business growth is a direct reflection of your personal growth. I believe that to be a fact. If we're not growing personally, it will reflect in your business, and vice versa. If you're growing personally, it will also reflect in your business. And then know the difference between reaction and a response, right? So, does anybody have thought on what the difference between a reaction and a response is?
You're going to solve it with a response. If you react, you might be moving too fast or
Okay.
make the wrong decision or whatever.
So there's a time component to it?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It seems to me like a reaction is something you do without thought, and a response is something more thoughtful in its nature.
Right, and I would agree with that. And so, I agree with both points. And so when I look at reaction versus response, reaction to me is life, limb, or eyesight. I'm going to react. And it's just going to happen. If I'm outside of that, I need to take the time to think about what has happened, to process it, and respond accordingly, right? Because if I react inappropriately to a situation, and it happens, it does, it happened to me last Friday. I made a comment when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? That probably came off in a way that I didn't want it to come off that way. So now I have to go back to that person and either explain myself or kind of rebuild that relationship, right? So reacting versus responding, it's important. And one more thing to touch on this slide is when you're in this business or in life in general, you have to have somebody that you can confide in. There has to be that trusted source, right? And for some people it's prayer. Some people it's a combination of prayer and another person, right? So I'm married. I have found that my wife is a good person to confide in with some things.
although she's not the best person to confide in with other things. She works in academia. She does develop a lot of business relationships with people, but when I'm struggling with that, because I need to be able to confide in somebody that can give me objective advice, right? Well, that's kind of outside of her lane. So I have other people within the industry that I can talk to, or military leaders that I served with at one point that I can talk to, and they can provide me that advice. So having a circle of people that you can speak to is really important to get honest advice. Also remember, when you get honest advice, you may hear things that make you upset. So when someone tells me something that makes me upset, especially about myself, the first thing I turn and ask myself is, are they right? If they're right, I may have liked maybe a little bit different delivery of the information, but at the end of the day, they're right. And then that's on me. So I have to look at, again, self-reflection. What can I do to fix this? Or what can I do to get better at this? When it comes to developing a business, and this is something that when I first started in the financial business, I failed to do this, right? And that's why I learned it was so important, because I did not do it because I was just trying to survive. I had to lay the groundwork, the philosophical aspect of how is my business going to work. So I came up with a mission statement. So you can read on the board. I'm not going to read it directly to you guys, but again, a mission statement, present focused. That's very important. So we're talking about right here, right now, or a short period of time, and then purpose, audience, impact. For those of you in here that own your own businesses or entrepreneurs, like independent practitioners like myself, have you sat down and taken the time to write out a mission statement? And you can answer it internally, or you can answer it externally if you'd like. So, but take the time to do that, and then write it down. I have found that writing things down, committing them to paper, and looking at them on a consistent basis, I'm far more likely to follow that, right? I'm far more likely to strive to achieve what my mission statement is. So my mission statement is demonstrate a commitment to providing innovative solutions and expert financial advice. It's pretty simple. It's today focused, in my opinion. It is today focused, and it provides some guidance on what I'm looking to do with my clients and the community at large. Vision. Vision is very much future focused. So a vision statement, again, concise, future oriented, future focused, reflects on core values, and we'll talk about principles or core values shortly, and then sets a clear direction. So without direction, we're just kind of throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks, right? So when we're trying to take our business in a certain direction, we have to determine what that is. Now, one of the most important parts that I have found about this is consistency. I can't try something once and then not work and just go, well, that didn't work, and then try something else. Because maybe the delivery was wrong. Maybe it was just the wrong person. Because if I try it one time and it fails, what if I tried it 10 more times and it succeeded with the next 9 people? So we have to be consistent and be deliberate about how we craft these things and how we talk to people. If we find over time that we're consistent and we're still not getting the results, now we can go back to that self-reflection part and determine, where are we failing? Because it could simply be me, and that happens, right? I've met with many of people, and I always ask people if they give me that no, right, in a conversation, I just ask them a very direct question: is it the process or is it me? Are you saying no to my process, or are you saying no to me? If you're saying no to my process, we can change certain aspects of the process. If you're saying no to me, that's a very different subject. And again, that's okay. I'm not for everybody. I've accepted that fact. I can then make a recommendation to another person, preferably within my company, right? I can make another recommendation to somebody that they might get along with better, because at the end of the day, I want them taken care of. I would prefer it would be me that does it, but it's not always gonna be me. There's a lot of other financial people that come to these things. And I know them, they're good people, and people connect with them better than they connect with me, and that's okay. That's why there's not just one financial planner for Oklahoma City. That'd be, pretty cool, but, anyways, so you have to understand that getting people to the resources to solve their problems is the end goal. The optimal goal is it's done with me, but the end goal is done with somebody, right? Because inaction is an action. Deciding not to do something is a decision. The big thing that I want to talk about with vision is, since it is more forward focused, is understanding in business there's two different people. There's an architect and then the visionary. So what do you think the difference between an architect and a visionary is?
The visionary may have an idea, but the architect would probably have the skills to put it together or to build
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, so I agree with that. And again, it kind of goes into what Ruben was talking about earlier. A visionary is someone that can see and craft from a philosophical standpoint, where is this going? Where do we want to take this? The architect is the person that can build the day-to-day processes that get you there. I am an architect. I know that I am. Through self-reflection and building my business, I am an architect. It takes both to make your business go where it needs to go. Since I know that I'm an architect, what do I have to do now?
You got to find a visionary.
I have to go find a visionary. I have to go find them. So, how I've chosen to do that is I have a couple of partners that I do work with out of Texas, and one of them is very much that person, right? And they're a very good connection for me to have because they are that visionary. What they lack is the capability to do the daily work, the grind, the paperwork, everything that takes to build the business. So we're a good combination, a good pairing. I'm not saying you can't be successful without both of these, but for optimal success, I believe you need both, right? It's rare that people are both. I do know some of them, and that's awesome, but it's rare that you are both. And it's also exceedingly difficult to be both because it takes a lot of time, especially because I'm the architect. It takes a lot of time because we do a lot of paperwork. So, and that's when you just end up hiring people and teach them how to do it and so forth, so forth. But everybody, I just want you guys to understand that in my practice, this is what I look at and how I build my business, right? So again, I'm the numbers guy. I'm not the great philosophical person, but I'm good enough at the philosophical side of it to understand where my weaknesses are, where my strong points are, and then we can move forward. So, principles. Business principles, core guidelines that organizations adopt to guide decisions. That's the big thing about principles. We're guiding decisions. We're enhancing efficiency or developing relationships. So, those of us that served in the military, this is generally referred to as what are core values, right? In the business world, I like to refer to them as principles because you start talking about linking too much stuff to the military, and a lot of my audience, right, and especially my clients, unless they were in the military, they kind of start to tune things out because I'm trying to make it sound too much, like I'm just giving a military briefing, right? And that's not appealing to most people. It's not appealing to some of us that serve in the military either. Yeah, because they're difficult. If you've been through them, they can be very difficult. But again, guiding decisions. So over here are listed principles, right? And these are mine. I want to listen to understand. When I get into a conversation with somebody, I'm not trying to listen to respond, even if it's an argument. I'm not trying to just respond to one-up them and win. That doesn't work. That doesn't work for building relationships. I'm listening to understand. One of the big things about understanding is when someone is telling me something, I will generally restate it back to them how I've understood it. Give them the opportunity to know that I do understand what they're telling me. Or if I've made a mistake, they can correct me. Right? That's important to have that dialogue, right? So, strict adherence to ethical standards. That's a big thing in every business, especially my business. Because we have legal standards, Security Exchange Commission, Federal Trade Commission, we have legal standards. You would be surprised what the legal standards actually are. The legal standards are a far lower bar than what I would consider to be ethical standards, right? It's the reality. In this profession, it's very much reality. So I believe ethical standards, because those are my own interpretation of how I feel like I should handle clients. My ethical standards, I believe, greatly exceed the legal standards. Have to have a strict adherence to them. Up to and including ending relationships with people if they choose to try to leverage or force you to not follow one of these ethical standards. It does happen. You can fire clients. You can. It's unfortunate, but you can. Nowadays, I usually can figure it out pretty quickly whether or not I'm going to have to go down that road at some point with people. Usually within the first hour meeting I have with them, and then we choose to just go our separate ways and everything's okay. Very rare does it happen late into the process. Very rare, because at that point we've kind of vetted each other and hopefully figured out that we're a good, ethical, moral, and strategic fit to work with one another. So, open and honest relationships. So, open and honest relationships are extremely important in life. They're very important in business. I don't know what you need unless you feel like you can tell me. I've created that environment where you feel like you can tell me what you need. Or you feel like I've created that environment when you tell me when I've done something wrong and you want to approach me about it. I've so many times, and I struggle with this too, right? Especially with people you're very close with. You don't want to have difficult conversations with them. And those are the people that you should 100% be having difficult conversations with. It's easy to have difficult conversations, in my opinion, with people you don't know very well. Because if the end result is they don't want to speak to you anymore, well, you didn't know them all that well anyways. I mean, that's kind of the truth, right? So, but if you're having that conversation with a person that you know really well, you care about, you trust them, it becomes much more difficult to have those conversations. So when I'm having those conversations with clients, right, I care about them. We trust one another. We have to have those difficult conversations. So it's important to set that standard early to be open and honest with one another. Now, what this does not give you the right to do is to be disrespectful. I mean, that's a fact. A lot of people look at being bluntly honest with people as like, well, that's just my personality. You can be honest with someone and not be disrespectful. You can be tactful, you can talk to people and you can tell people it is what it is, but you can do it in a respectful way. And if you need to practice that, and again, all this stuff is these are practice skills, right? This is not just stuff I've dreamt up and just started doing last Tuesday. I've been working at this for almost 7 years, and it changes every single time I interact with somebody. Because every single time I interact with someone new, I learn something new, right? So then I have to look at that and see if I need to change my delivery and the way I handle that personal relationship. So you have to remember, are your principles aligned with my client's goals and concerns? And then jumping back over here, a lot of people say be a problem solver. I would say be a problem preventer. A lot of people are great at solving problems, but the fact is something bad has already happened, right? So let's be a problem preventer. Let's do our best to get ahead of that and prevent these things from happening. Have some, strategic thought processes that we're looking out 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, 30 years. And it's not going to be perfect, right? Because life happens on that timeline. We don't live life on a pure linear path. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of branches that happen on life, right? So we have to be flexible on that, but the reality of it is, be a problem preventer. Now, if a problem happens, you gotta be able to flip it quick. And now we go into kind of crisis management mode, and we become a problem solver. So this is an ideal problem preventer. Commitment to lifelong learning. And that's in every aspect, right? Whether it's through formal education at Southern Nazarene University, master's degrees, doctoral degrees, whether it's, for me, professional designations, or just reading papers that other people have written to give myself a better understanding of what's going on in the world. And it's not just financial papers. I have read multiple papers on emotional intelligence. That's an important skill to have. Being emotionally intelligent enough to connect with people, to understand things about yourself. And that's kind of strange because a lot of my leadership experience came from the military, where a lot of people think of the military as not being an emotionally intelligent place. Do people agree or disagree with that? Okay, outwardly, right? That's kind of what it seems like. The reality of it is, especially on the officer side, we have shifted to a servant leadership model. We shifted to it a long time ago. It just takes time for that to become rooted in our processes. So emotional intelligence is very important, especially in the military, because we're going to go ask people at the end of the day to do things that could have an extremely high cost. And we still need them to do them, right? We still need to give that order. They need to go execute, even though we know it could cost them their life. Being able to emotionally connect with those people that are going to have to go do that is very, very, very important. So the military has really shifted to that. Outwardly, right, there's still situations where like it looks like, and so I will also tell you that this is not like this is a tough love in the military a lot too, right? So there's different things processes that we go through, but that emotional intelligence component of it, because most of the papers that I've read on emotional intelligence have been written by senior military leaders. And mostly from the aspect of where they failed. Because we identify where we fail, and then we identify processes to not fail again. Be the link between intent and execution. So when I say be the link between intent and execution, what does that mean to you?
Well, most of us have good intentions,
Okay.
but we don't, sometimes the fear keeps us from connecting.
Okay, absolutely. Fear. That's a good point. Yes, sir.
It's the, like shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Intent is the thought. Execution is putting it into action.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good, that's a very good point. So it shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yes, ma'am.
After the education piece, be the call to action.
Okay. Be the call to action. Be the person that gets somebody to take their intentions to execution, right? Because ultimately as business owners, leaders, we have a lot of intentions, right, of what we want to do. We eventually have to go execute. Be the link between those two things, which means you have to understand the people you're talking to, the processes. You have to have desired outcomes, but we also have to have a plan to execute. You are that link that gets us from talking about something to going and actually trying to accomplish or execute, right? So vertical integration, there's a concept in business called vertical integration. Does anybody know who came up with it? J.D. Rockefeller came up with vertical integration. Vertical integration talks about owning the process all the way through, right? So if we're gonna ultimately sell French fries, or let's say oil, because Rockefeller was an oil guy, right? So he wanted to get the oil out of the ground. He wants to transport it. He wants to take it to sale. He wants to control the whole entire process from the exploration, finding it, getting it out of the ground, transporting it, taking it to market sale. Vertical integration. That same concept can be applied to our leadership thought process. We have to vertically integrate with our thoughts, our processes, which means we have to be aligned if we're leaders. We have to be aligned with the people that are supporting us. We have to be aligned with the people that we support. Another way to put that in the military is called nesting. Our goals have to be nested. So vertical integration and all of this happens not in a vacuum. This is real. I do work for somebody, even I'm an independent practitioner, but I do work for somebody. So my goals, my mission, my vision, my principles, they have to be aligned with the overall goals of the people that I report to. And then my goals have to be aligned with the people that I'm trying to bring into the organization, which would be clients. So I believe that you can vertically integrate, not just like physical commodities and practices. You can vertically integrate this whole thought process. And when you find yourself in alignment with people is generally where you're going to start to become successful in doing the things that you set out to do. So, all of that to be said, mission, vision, principles, in reality, none of it matters unless we have a problem that we're trying to solve. I can come up with these great statements and all these good things, but if there's no value for me in the market, it doesn't matter, right? I have to go out and solve a problem of some kind. So, problem solving or a problem statement, right? I'm not going to go into how to develop one, right? But you have to think about in your individual business, you know, in my individual business, what problem am I trying to solve? I'm trying to solve the problem that the vast majority or the average rate of savings in the United States is 3.6%. And I see it every day. I see people in their 70s still working. Maybe because they want to, but also maybe because they have to. So I see these problems. I see the problems of people transitioning out of the United States military and not getting good financial advice and then stepping back 4, 5, 6 years. I've seen my parents go through extremely difficult times because they made poor decisions. Probably because nobody was there to tell them otherwise.
That's right.
So the problem that I'm trying to solve is, it's a big one, right? And I can only solve it on a per client basis, right? But the problem that I'm trying to solve is education and organization. Those are the two big things I'm trying to solve for people. Let's educate you on what you could be doing, and let's organize you so we can at least look at what is going on. And I use balance sheets to do that, so because it makes it easy. Learned that in my MBA classes. So. But it also controls complexity, guides solutions to development, sets a common understanding. So a common understanding is really important because we need to know that we all have to be trying to solve the same problem. We have to be on the same page, but the problem is different maybe for everybody, and that's okay. Because that's where you, again, that link between intention and execution, you're going in there, you can solve these problems for people, right? It's just, we have to be mentally agile enough to move back and forth and kind of be that Swiss Army knife that can solve any problem. Now, will I get you to a 100% solution? Maybe, maybe not. Can we certainly get you better than what you were? Absolutely, because it also takes time, right? It takes a lot of time in a lot of cases. And again, don't let inaction become your preferred method of problem solving. Do not do that, please. I've done it, and there are serious ramifications for doing that, right? Again, just internally, I was going through a lot, doing a lot of different things. Just a quick story about me, and I got to the point where like I got behind because I have to file my own taxes, right, because of the way my business works, and I didn't do it for 1 year, right? And I'm like, you know, I'll get it done. Then we got close to the end of that year, and then we got into the next year. So the reality of it is I'm making the decision not to do that, right? Because in reality, the reason why is because I'm gonna have to pay a lot in taxes, right? Because of the way my business works and the way it's taxed. Still gotta go do it, But again, don't let inaction, and by the way, if anybody works in here, I paid my taxes, it's all we're good. I still have a high level of government security clearance, everything's fine. But the reality of it is like, it starts to build on you and it starts to stress you out. So we choose inaction because we just kind of push it aside. And if I don't see it, it's not real. Don't do that. I know we all do it. Try not to do that. Don't do that with big things like taxes, right? But again, at the end of the day, when I'm trying to solve a problem in my life, the 4 Ps, and I'm stealing this. So plagiarism is the ultimate form of flattery, right? So I'm stealing this from a really, really good leader that I know, and that's Colonel Cale Rogers. He is the 45th FAB commanding officer. He's a brigade commander. He's a great, great person. Very good leader, very good combat leader, very good at connecting with people. But the 4 Ps he talks about, and I believe them: prayer, PT, people, processes. PT, does everyone know what PT is?
Physical training.
Yeah, physical training. Cool. So I already prayed once this morning, then I went to the gym, then we got to pray again. So I'm good. I got 2 up checks. People, I'm here in front of a lot of great people. So we're good there. Processes. So we've had a lot of discussion about general processes. What I'm talking about really in processes is have a process to organize your business, the way you communicate with people, the way you bring people into your business. I promise you it's going to save you a lot of time. If you're handwriting every single unique email for every single person that you meet with, that's going to take a bunch of time. Microsoft Outlook, use the signature block. You can put in standardized and then change maybe a couple things, send it to the client. So have processes, right? Have a process in how you bring people into your business. Have a process in how you connect and communicate with people. If you come and meet with me, I'm not going to talk about numbers, market, anything the first time we meet, because it makes no sense to do that, because I don't know anything about you and you don't know very much about me or anything about me. We're going to have a conversation about philosophy. Who are you as a person? Who am I as a person? Do we connect? If we connect, then we have plenty of time. The next step in the process is, once we get through philosophy, is then we go into, let's sit down and let's talk about some high level stuff, right? And then we eventually drill down until we're into very, very kind of intimate detail, right? Of what's going on in your financial life. Same thing could be said about leading people in a church, leading people in the military, leading people in your household, right? So processes are important. But I think those 4 things, if I do those 4 things right, I can generally kind of win the day, if you will. It may not have been the desired outcome that I wanted, but I'm still here, I still got things done, and then we get to try again tomorrow. Gotta have a short memory sometimes, right? Get to try again tomorrow. All that to say, I really appreciate you guys letting me speak today. I'm going to open it for questions, comments, if anybody has any of them. Yes, ma'am.
So, have you heard the story of